Hey there, movie fans. Welcome to Collider Videos for your consideration. Every week we have been counting down to the big show, the Academy Awards, which air February 24th. And I remember when we started this show 5 months ago, it seemed like a million light years away. We got plenty of time to talk about the Oscars. We are less than 2 weeks away from the big show. And it is very, very exciting to be back in the studio with my trusty and talented colleagues and very dear friends, the amazing Perri Nemiroff, the uncanny, the invincible, the mighty Jeff Sneider. How fun have these last 5 weeks been talking about awards?
It's crazy. I mean, I'm really excited for today's episode, but right before we went live on air, we were busy talking about Oscar night plans, and you guys know that's one of my favorite nights of the year. I am so excited. The 24th can't get here soon enough.
It's our Super Bowl.
I've got my tux pressed. Stephanie's going to make some cake pops. We're good to go.
Yes, we're good to go today because we're in the home stretch. You know, last night, we're taping, this is live on February 11th, the 55th anniversary, by the way, of the Beatles' first U.S. concert in Washington, D.C. at the Coliseum. But I digress. Last night, we had the Grammys. Who cares? But we also had... No, there was some movie action at the Grammys. We'll get to that. We had the BAFTAs. They are the British Academy of Film and Television Arts, otherwise known as the British Academy Awards.
Ooh.
Very interesting results from there. Some of them surprising, some of them not very much. I guess the first question before we get into who actually won. And
who hosted? That's my question.
Who did host?
Who'd they get to? I don't know.
I know, they never talk about the host. Maybe we should be listed following their lead on that. But Perri, what did you just think overall of the outcome, especially with regards to 7 wins for a movie that I know is your favorite? See what I did there? But
yeah.
It has not been getting that kind of love from the U.S. guilds.
I know. I'm really bummed that The Favorite has basically fallen into that category of getting nominated for anything and everything and basically not having any chance at winning. So that's a little unfortunate. But, I'm happy to see it get love at the BAFTAs. I think that was probably one of the most predictable elements of the entire show. I figured that's where The Favorite was going to shine. Yeah. But I don't know, because even though everything is getting a lot of love late in the game and the BAFTAs might maybe sway you one way or the other on 2 things that are closer in contention than, let's say, anything else that's going to run away with a particular category, you look at this and there's 2 completely different voting bodies. So there's no overlap here. So I don't even necessarily know if I'm looking at, almost anything on the list except for maybe Rami Malek and thinking, okay, this is further solidifying an Oscar prediction that I had.
Well, okay, Jeff, we're talking about an award show that the last 4 years, the movie that won Best Picture at the BAFTAs did not win Best Picture at the Academy Awards. So, I know, right?
Doesn't bode well for Roma.
What's your take on everything Perri just said?
I thought that the evening did sort of reaffirm the Favorite's position, particularly with the Rachel Weisz win, because we were talking about, I still think Regina King is going to win Best Supporting Actress, but on this show we've talked about how maybe Amy Adams was the number 2. I think it was and has always been Rachel Weisz. I just don't think Amy Adams, that's a winning performance. Rachel was better than Emma in The Favorite. I preferred her work, so I think that the BAFTA sort of cements her as that, if not frontrunner, then the number 2 in that category behind.
So do you think her BAFTA win kind of closes the gap between her and Regina King at all, even though Regina King wasn't even a nominee in the category?
Yeah, that's the thing. If she had beaten King, then maybe she stands a better chance at the Oscars. But because King's not there, I look at it like the SAG thing, where it's just whatever. But I think that there's real support for The Favorite, as you could see from just the number of nominations and how many wins it had. I just don't think it's going to ultimately matter when Regina King's in the category. Original screenplay is another category where it could matter. People have talked about Green Book versus The Favorite, and The Favorite won last night. Again, that audience is sort of predisposed to a Favorite win, but
well, the other thing is with regards to the BAFTAs. Okay, the BAFTAs versus the Oscars. They are very, very different voting bodies, just like you pointed out, Perri. I feel like the wins here for the favorite, again, overall, not very surprising. In terms of how the BAFTA wins, will indeed maybe close the gap, like you pointed out. It's worth pointing out that February 12th is tomorrow. So between February 12th and February 19th, that's when Academy voters pick their winners.
Right. I thought it was today. My bad. I thought it started today.
Oh, yeah.
It's
today,
tomorrow. It's tomorrow.
I mean, what? Same difference. The point is that the BAFTA wins happened before Oscar voting polls opened, and people maybe sort of, you're talking almost 8,000 people. You don't think even just a small portion of them might be swayed by the outcome of the BAFTAs?
It's like the Golden Globes and
Very
Oscar
possible.
nominations.
Do we know what the overlap is? Is it like 1,000 or 2,000 members in the Academy are also BAFTA?
That's a great question. I hope someone watching can comment on the
Yeah,
below.
I would be curious about those kind of statistics.
Well, let's say, you talked about Best Supporting Actress. Supporting Actress here went to Rachel Weisz for The Favorite. Emma Stone was the other favorite here. But again, looking at the focus of the British Academy Awards, for them to favor the favorite, again, I feel like, people at Fox Searchlight were like going along this award season going like, man, especially after winning Best Picture last year for The Shape of Water at the Oscars, being like, man, we're nominated for a bunch of Oscars for both movies here. Can You Ever Forgive Me and The Favorite? We're not really winning anything here, but this is a consolation prize, I think, for Searchlight to win so many BAFTA awards, British Oscars, because I think when it comes to the big show in less than 2 weeks, they're going to be back to being like, okay, it's an honor to be nominated here. I know you love the film, Perri, and look, 7 wins. I mean, that's a good shot.
Yeah, of course.
But I personally, supporting actress Rachel Weisz for The Favorite at the BAFTAs, like you said, Jeff, I still think it's going to be Regina King at the Academy Awards. For supporting actor, you have no surprise here, Green Book, Mahershala Ali. Done deal.
Yeah, I think so
This
too.
is a done deal, right?
We can move on.
And I thought if there was a chance for Richard E. Grant, who was sensational in Can You Ever Forgive Me, to win anything and not just be nominated for everything, it would have been here, and it still went to Mahershala. For lead actor, Rami Malek, capitalizing on a win at the Golden Globes, his win at the SAG Awards. Now, again, do you think, Jeff, that this will, and Perri, do you think that this will sway the Academy to keep staying on the Bohemian Rhapsody train for Rami, or does Christian Bale still have a really, really good shot? Nikki Novak from Fandango. Okay, she's been in here. She's done Review Talk. We all know her. She texted me this morning with a really, really great point, and I have to give a shout out to her because she made an interesting analogy. She said, do you think that going into the Oscars, we could have a situation with Sylvester Stallone and Mark Rylance? When Stallone was nominated for Creed, Mark Rylance for Bridge of Spies. So Stallone was everywhere. He was campaigning. He was shaking hands. He was kissing babies.
Right.
And Rylance, in terms of campaigning, did absolutely nothing. And Mark Rylance won the Oscar. Is there a shot that Christian Bale, who hasn't been doing as much of that campaigning, he's only done like a couple of Q&As, would really pull a Rylance and win over Rami Malek?
I think it's a completely different thing when you're comparing a Christian Bale win to a Mark Rylance win, just because, I mean, Christian Bale is basically an Oscar darling. We were talking about his chances being very, very good before we even saw a stitch of Vice. So I think there might be a little too big of a difference there to actually use that comparison. But that win is changing things in my eyes. Sure. I mean, I really had Christian Bale as my front runner from the very beginning, and that hadn't really changed. And even with Rami's SAG win, it still didn't put Rami Malek over Christian Bale in my eyes. Now that he also has the BAFTA, especially right before Oscar voting happens, I'm starting to think that the race is far closer than I ever realized.
Wow. Yeah. Jeff, what do you think?
I mean, my head says Rami Malek has won everything to win and will continue to win.
Yep.
But my heart still refuses to go along with it. I think that the Academy...
It's not about what your heart says. It's about what your head says.
I think that the Academy is smarter than we give them credit for. And I think that they will see at the end of the day that either Christian Bale or Bradley Cooper, who I refuse to write off, like Sean Penn, I believe that they still have a chance and that this is not Rami Malek's in the bag. Do I think he's the front runner? Yes, but I'm not ready to call him a lock. I'm still not there.
Well, moving on to lead actress. Again, not a surprise of the outcome of this category, considering who's voting. You have Olivia Colman for The Favorite. And, you know, I don't think this is going to make a two-bit difference at all when it comes to the Oscar wins. I still think it is Glenn Close's. And I know I said this before, and I know I have said this repeatedly, how, it's a career Oscar. She's overdoing all that. And I still think that. But when I rewatched The Queen again twice in a week, and I just was like, I was able to appreciate it a whole lot more. She does deserve it for this performance by any measure, just on this performance alone.
And I played Scott a clip from the Ringer's Rewatchables episode of A Star Is Born, which they did this week, and they're all talking about how Glenn Close, and I agree with them, easily the worst performance in the category.
What?
Worse than Lady Gaga.
No way.
Worse than Melissa McCarthy. Worse than Olivia Colman.
Perri.
You'll lead to a different story.
I don't agree with that. I
But you
think
still go with the
Glenn
Just
Close
saying.
gave a phenomenal performance. But, you know, let's say I was sitting there and just from my personal perspective, I started to rank these performances. I think it might have something to do with the fact that The Wife overall didn't really do it for me quite like those other
It
films.
didn't do it for anybody. Nobody is saying that this is a great movie. I just like it. And that's even the people who have seen it.
Wow.
It's not a done deal. I'm telling you, it's a different thing, and this is what I have wanted to communicate all season long on this show. Okay, because I've told you guys, I've done it. I've been there in the room using Peter Bart's Oscar ballot of variety.
Peter Bart. Okay, good.
It is
ballot.
a different thing when you are filling out an Oscar ballot. It just is. The weight, the significance, the history, you know that this choice is going to be remembered. You could think one thing one week and you put forward your SAG vote, and then it's like for the Oscars, you change your mind just because you know that it's just a different award. And that's all I want to get across on this show is that, and I think that the Oscars are going to have some surprises for us. God, I hope that they do, because it is, if it's
otherwise that's boring. No,
exactly.
I agree.
Exactly.
Well, let me ask you a question. So animated feature, okay, the fact that the BAFTAs picked Spider-Man, I mean, I was surprised because I thought they would go, be more highbrow and go for Isle of Dogs.
But Isle of Dogs wasn't good, and I'd say that as like a Wes Anderson devotee,
I'm down with that. I'm just happy Spider-Man
It's just
won. I'm just happy Spider-Man
That's
won.
another one that's like a done deal now.
Yeah,
Mahershala
Spider-Man?
Ali and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse are locks in my eyes.
All right, I just want to take this in because I am, for everyone, if you want to go on the single camera here, I am wearing my amazing
So
Spider-Man
skinny.
t-shirt. Look at that.
He's a
Spider-Man,
runner,
I did
He
not
runs.
realize I was going to go huge on Spider-Man today, but let's just take in the fact that an Oscar is going to be awarded to a Spider-Man movie. How friggin' cool is that? That is super cool.
That's what happens when you take a risk.
Big shout out. Amazing. Wait.
That's what happens when you do something
Spider-Man.
different.
Come on, right here. All right, moving on. Let's talk about the screenplays. All right, first let's talk about adapted screenplay. Big deal that the BAFTAs chose what we've been picking as the Oscar frontrunner for best adapted screenplay, which is BlacKkKlansman.
BlacKkKlansman?
Yes.
I had the scripters on my brain,
Okay.
which was not.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Keep going with the
Yeah,
BAFTAs,
we'll
though.
stick with BAFTAs before we segue to the Scripter Awards.
Well, we still have to
but-
get to like Best Picture and
Yes, we have
and
a
all
lot.
that stuff. So BlacKkKlansman, so Spike Lee is up for 3 Academy Awards this year for director, for Best Picture, for adapted screenplay. Pretty safe to say that the one he's going to get for sure is Best Adapted Screenplay. The BAFTAs went also for BlacKkKlansman.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Okay, go ahead. Let's hear.
You think BlacKkKlansman's in the bag?
I think it's probably has the best
I
shot.
do.
I mean, the other,
For
I do.
screenplay?
Yeah, I'm
For-
looking at this. Buster Scruggs, Can You Ever Forgive Me, Beale Street, and A Star Is Born. No, it's BlacKkKlansman.
We keep talking about how, Spike Lee finally got that nomination, and he got the nomination. I don't think he has any chance of winning, but I still do think the Academy wants to hand him a statue for something, and that kind of naturally paves paves the way to screenplay.
Let me ask you this though. Let me just ask you this. If if it was just Charlie and David's script, and Spike Lee and Kevin Wilmot were denied a credit or whatever, they weren't nominated, does BlacKkKlansman win? It's the same script, same movie, but Spike's name isn't on the ballot. Does BlacKkKlansman win?
Yes, because if you look at the other nominees, again, Buster Scruggs, Can You Ever Forgive Me, Beale Street, and A Star Is Born, BlacKkKlansman has a lot to say.
I think I have
more
to agree
depth
with that
than the others.
The only other thing, again, playing the game of if I were voting on that category, I would let Can You Ever Forgive Me run away with this honor. But given the conversation from the very beginning of this show up until now, Can You Ever Forgive Me has been so far out of the realm of possibility with just about any category it made it into, besides just getting the nomination.
Here's what I think. I think that BlacKkKlansman is probably going to win, but I would not say that it's a gimme. I still think that A Star Is Born could be recognized, or Can You Ever Forgive Me?
All right, well, for original screenplay, back to Perri's favorite, the favorite winning original screenplay at the BAFTAs.
I am so happy to
There
hear
you
it.
go. Okay, all right.
It's so hard because I want it to win everything, especially.
it's not gonna.
I know that, but especially looking at it as a Best Picture contender, it's like the reason it's there is because every single element of that production it's not just good, it's great, and then the way that Lanthimos brings it all together, that's what makes a Best Picture winner. But the fact that it got the original screenplay win here does encourage me a little, but I'm a little nervous, particularly about Green Book here.
I'm not nervous about Green Book.
Really?
No, because I think Green Book deserves to win the Oscar.
Okay, no, I would definitely give the deserved honor to the favorite over Green Book here, and the fact that Green Book has picked up so much steam with just about everything over the course of its award season run makes me think that there's a chance it's going to walk away with this one.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the only other one here you got for original screenplay at the Oscars, the other nominees are the favorite. First Reformed, not going to happen.
No way.
Vice, Roma. I mean, I don't think Roma for screenplay, but I think for a lot of other
got those
things.
technical categories that it's in, and potentially Best Picture, not screenplay, though.
Well, let's move. Okay, so documentary. Okay, Free Solo, which is back in theaters and has now become, I think, the highest-grossing documentary that was released in 2018.
Is that the favorite of the? You think?
For the Oscars?
Yeah.
See, that's a great question.
It's that RBG.
It's that or RBG
or Minding the Gap.
I think it's between RBG and Free Solo. What do you think, Perri?
I'm so thrown off just because I still, even though it's a done deal, there's no point in saying this again, I still can't shake the idea of Won't You Be My Neighbor not being in this category, and then on top of that, Three Identical Strangers not being there.
Can't predict those,
Well,
Perri.
yeah, I agree.
Free Solo,
Two
Minding
snubs.
the Gap, and RBG, I think, are the only ones with shots at actually getting it. I would probably next kick off Minding the Gap from having a real chance, bring it down to RBG and Free Solo. Free Solo, I personally believe, is the far superior documentary, so I'm going to lean towards that right now.
Jeff?
I haven't seen RBG still, so
What the hell are you waiting for?
I really
Jesus.
need to get on that because I just don't know, how it's done. I loved Free Solo, like it was gripping. But part of me is just like it is just what he was doing gripping, and they just got permission to get it on camera. That
It's
kind of
not
thing.
just about that, though. It's like one of the reasons why I was so taken by that documentary was, one, how they put this crazy passion of his on screen along with the risk, but also how they dig a little deeper and show how that affects his relationships. And then on top of that, just this whole journey about how them doing the documentary at all further puts his life at risk and what they had to do, and God forbid anything happened to him while they were making that documentary. It would have affected everybody, his loved ones, but then everybody involved in the documentary.
Sure, they would have died right in front of their eyes.
I was so wrapped up in that all, and it was an extra layer that I never expected from this.
And that is, I will say, those two filmmakers, is it Jimmy and Elizabeth?
Jimmy Chai, Elizabeth Chai.
Yeah, they I've been listening to some of their interviews and stuff, and they come off really well spoken. I think their campaign has really given them a boost this season. Whereas I'm just like, who are the RBG filmmakers? I don't know that I've read enough or seen enough
of the
them.
five
Betsy
nominated.
West and Julie Cohen.
of the 5 nominated documentaries, Free Solo is my favorite by far. I saw the Telluride. Actually, I was overhearing Damien Chazelle rave about Free Solo at the First Man cocktail reception at Telluride. Saw Free Solo the next day, and I'm glad I did. And of the 5 nominated movies, it's my favorite, and it is an immersive experience.
I sense a butt.
Well, there is a but.
Okay.
Just wait.
Give me that
There's
butt.
nice big but. The big but here is that Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, that movie is about something. It's not just capturing your feet. It's what she did and how hard she had to fight to do it at a time when it was a whole lot harder than it is now for women to get ahead in any business, let alone in the U.S. government. And like every step of the way, every fight she has taken on to establish balance and equality, it represents a whole lot more than what Free Solo represents.
Do you think that is going to win, RBG?
Now, I don't know. I really don't know.
It's a good race. Even without Mr. Rogers and 3 Identical Strangers, this is a great race.
Yeah, now that Mr. Rogers is not nominated, which I thought would be like the one to beat, followed very close behind by Identical Strangers, like I really thought, that opens the door for RBG. But I love Free Solo. Free Solo is like, all the backstory with his girlfriend Sani and just the way the movie was shot. It's just as much Jimmy Chin, the co-director, it's just as much his story as it is Alex Honnold, the climber story, because he is getting everything, and he's on camera too, and he's on the side of the mountain. He's not soloing, but Free Solo is a landmark documentary. It's an extremely entertaining, gripping, suspenseful movie, one that you're holding on to your chair armrest for. But RBG, I've seen it twice, and I think that what that represents, what it stands for, the way it has educated a whole lot of people who didn't know who Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg is, I think that's it. We'll have to come back to that when we do our final predictions. Speaking of final, hang on. 2 more awards here. We have an Outstanding British Film. No-brainer, Perri.
What's that going to be?
The Favorite!
Yeah, it was huge below the line, taking home production design, costume design, makeup, and hair. So, it really had the support of the below the line folks.
Well, okay, British film. The other nominees here were Beast, Bohemian Rhapsody, McQueen, Stan and Ollie. You Were Never Really Here. I think the only other movie that could have won here was Bohemian Rhapsody, but The Favorite, it's just a more highbrow prestige film, and your favorite.
That's why it won.
That's why it won, because it was your favorite, Perri. They got the email. They've been watching Collider FYC, and did you see when they won? They said, #Collider FYC, go Perri.
If only.
All right, Best Picture. The nominees at the BAFTAs were BlacKkKlansman, The Favorite, Green Book, and A Star Is Born, and Roma, all of which are nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. The best film here went to Roma. Perri, what are your thoughts?
I know that there is that stat. What was it that the last 4 BAFTA Big Prize winners didn't win the Oscar? I think that is going to break this year. I still think Roma is my front runner. I don't necessarily see anything touching it with how many things it's accumulated thus far. The closest I think anything will come to snagging that Best Picture Oscars is probably Green Book.
Yeah, I agree.
But other than that, even at this point, I used to just group them Roma, Green Book, and A Star Is Born. I think A Star Is Born has further slipped down the chart. It's between the 2 of them, with Roma the clear frontrunner.
A Star Is Born did win Best Music at the BAFTAs, and I think Shallow won a Grammy. Right?
Well, it's Shallow.
Well, whoopity-doo!
There's another lot for you. Shallow is winning the Best Song Oscar. Done deal.
I was dissing the Grammys at the top of the show because they're, I don't know any of these people. Really, I don't.
Neither do I.
I was looking at the winners. I'm like, who are these people?
I don't know.
But it's because we live in this bubble, this movie bubble. And by the way, that's a bubble I'm happy to be in.
Ignorance is bliss.
Ignorance is bliss. But here's the thing. think so. Roma, the BAFTAs, winning Best Picture. Perri, I agree with you. I also agree that if there is a movie that could challenge Roma for the top prize, it is Green Book. Again, the demerit against it is, well, among all the controversy, is the fact that Peter Farrelly, the director, was not nominated for Best Director, and that is really tough. Only 2 times in Oscar history has a movie won Best Picture at the Oscars when its director was not nominated. Those movies were 1989's Driving Miss Daisy and 2012's Argo. But with this being a preferential voting system now, one that is extremely complicated and one that I am not, for your sake, not even going to try to explain.
You know what, though? Go back and look at Collider's Crash Course video that explains the entire system beautifully that I worked on with Adam Chitwood, who is a pro at all this. So if you want it easily explained to you, that's where you can find it.
And what's it labeled under so people can find it easily?
I believe it's Collider Crash Course Oscar nominations explained.
Okay, I'm going to watch that
BAFTAs
because I don't even understand it.
The BAFTAs don't use a preferred ballot, though, right?
I was reading up on that. Actually, they don't. Not for
so.
Best Picture, but I was reading something that I think someone might have confused the two. Or actually, what am I thinking? PGA uses the preferential.
Yes, the PGA
okay,
does.
and that's where
right,
it aligns.
That's where Green
That's
Book
where it
won.
aligns in Green Book's favor.
Roma winning the BAFTA doesn't really move my prediction one way or the other. I'm sticking with Green Book. I don't think that Roma is going to win. I've just spoken to too many voters who weren't all that impressed or enthused with it. I don't know what else we were expecting to win here. I think that the fact that there is an Outstanding British Film Award, sort of let the voters off the hook because they were able to essentially give awards to 2 different movies. We'll give it to Roma since we already gave favorite British film. But if British film wasn't a category, I think the favorite probably would have beaten Roma here.
Oh,
so that's how I'm choosing to read it.
Yeah, it's almost like when the Golden Globes do comedy and drama, and
It throws everything off.
Or like
throws
what
everything
might
off.
have happened if we got the popular film category.
Okay, so what I think is, first of all, that Green Book still has a very, 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 very good shot, especially if more people put it on their number 2 on their ballot, which is very possible. Because for a lot of people, Green Book was their second favorite, or at least the second most deserving movie to win the Oscar after Roma. At least that's sort of the broad conversation. And on a more personal level, I love Green Book. It was my number 1 of 18. I want it to win. If it doesn't win, I think it'll get original screenplay. But let's just say that it's Oscar night, the last envelope, and it's the right envelope, okay?
Let's just say, hypothetically.
Let's say it's the right envelope, and Best Picture, after all this, after 5 months, and after winning all these other award shows and guilds, that Roma loses Best Picture to Green Book. What do you think the fallout will be from that? Like, what do you think people, like, do you
Fallout?
think that
What do you mean?
people will cry foul because it was a simple movie, because
People are going to be upset no matter what. Let's just be clear. This is the Oscars. We're still talking about.
People will be upset. I think we're going to get a completely different kind of upset conversation if Green Book wins over Roma, though. Especially given all the drama that's been surrounding.
Of course. Listen,
it's like the Roma upset will just be like, oh, my favorite didn't win and Roma won. Green Book, I think, is going to raise some major red
people
flags.
On
in
Twitter
eyes.
overthink everything because they'd all put Green Book at 6 or 7 to bury it on the preferential ballot. I think it, the people who are playing the Oscar strategy game in this town, like that small grouping of people, that may be how their ballot looks. But most people are just going to vote for their favorite movies in order, and that is why Green Book is going to be number 2 and number 3 on a lot of ballots, and why I think that the preferential ballot is going to help it.
Well, this is the preferential ballot is why more often than not in the last 10 or 12 years, Best Picture and Best Director did go to different movies because the voting for each of those categories is so fundamentally different. All right, let's move on. We had a couple of other award shows over the weekend.
Yes.
The ASCA, the American Society of Cinematographers, celebrated the 33rd Annual ACS Awards what won the top prize, Perri Nemiroff?
Was Cold War.
Cold War.
Surprise. This is a big surprise.
I was a little surprised. I think the only reason that I can kind of rationalize in my head why it did happen and it didn't go to Corone is because, I mean, the cinematographers basically picked a cinematographer, not a director who also shoots his own material.
Right.
So perhaps that is the reason that the scale was tipped here, but I still don't necessarily know if this win for Cold War is going to impact the Oscar. I think maybe it's got a slight chance, but if I'm picking a front runner for cinematographer right now, it's still going to Corone.
Yeah, I agree.
Same. I just... this is one where you just have to look at Roma to drink in its visuals and its imagery. Like, if there's one Oscar that it does deserve to win, it is cinematography. So, yeah, I'm not putting much stock in the guild.
You know, here's the thing. I was having this conversation elsewhere about foreign film, best foreign film. So if Roma is the front runner to win Best Picture, does it also win Best Foreign Film? Or do voters say, you know where I'm going with this? Mm-hmm. All right, where am I going with this?
Do voters say, if I pick it for Best Picture, I'm going to pick Cold War for Best Foreign Film?
And
I do think there is a real chance of that happening here.
I do too.
I think that's basically Cold
I do
War's
not.
only chance.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that's happening at all. I'll put all my chips on Roma to win Best Foreign Film.
Although, you know, can I just be honest?
Yep.
I feel like having watched all the foreign film nominees.
You saw Never Look Away?
I saw Never
Impressive.
Look Away.
Okay.
And guess what? For my money, just personally speaking, my favorite of the 5 nominated foreign films is Never Look Away.
Yeah, I've heard that.
It is absolutely amazing.
Yep.
It is so incredibly moving. It is so incredibly beautiful. It is an epic film.
It's 3 hours, right?
It's 3 hours and 15 minutes. Now, for everyone who's like, oh my God, that's ridiculous. It's like, I'd rather watch
Roma
Spider-Man
felt like
twice.
it was 5 hours, just to be clear.
But, you know, yes, it did. Roma felt like it was a lot longer than it was.
Yes,
and I've seen that movie a couple times now. I love Roma, not taking anything away. But the running time of Never Look Away flew by. I did not feel my patience tested. I did not look at my watch every single
I heard that from
moment
Neil
it's seen.
Turritz, my old columnist at the Tracking Board. He loved Never Look Away. Plus, it's also nominated for a cinematography
Yes,
award,
it
right?
is, for Caleb Deschanel.
Which no one saw that coming. So
no, neither did Caleb Deschanel. But I mean, you guys should see it. I implore you to see it. It's at the Laemmle Royal. It opened this past weekend.
Again, if it was just the foreign language branch, I could see an upset happening between Cold War and Never Look Away. But if it's the entire Academy voting on this award, it's going to be Roma.
Yeah, because most people have seen Roma because it's on Netflix.
Is it Perri? Am I?
I don't know. I'm still thinking of the one, you know, like potentially natural human instinct of saying, well, if I'm voting for it in this category, I won't vote for it in that category. And we've already been discussing that, like even with Spike Lee and BlacKkKlansman. I'm not going to vote for him for director, but I want BlacKkKlansman and Spike Lee to win something, so I'll vote for it with the screenplay. I'm not saying that really does, you know, put them on even ground in terms of winning that Oscar, but I think it is something well worth considering.
Here's my question. Spike Lee, Glenn Close, these people, they're in the same boat. The Academy has passed them over time and time again. Why is the Academy suddenly just going to change course after 25 years of snubbing these people and give them awards?
For that reason, it's a good story. As much as we want to sit here and say the Oscar will be given to the best in that category,
I mean,
it's also being human beings who are influenced by so many different things.
You are right that is, okay,
She's
that's the natural inclination, but why is it the natural inclination to just believe maybe the Academy doesn't like these people?
What do you mean, like Sylvester Stallone when he lost Best Supporting Actor to Mark Rylance?
Spike Lee has been super entertaining all season.
Yeah, he has.
However, I've also been disgusted with Spike Lee's behavior. The way that he didn't clap for Peter Farrelly at the nominations lunch, like, you know, I think that Spike has carried himself just like we all thought Spike Lee would carry himself.
That's why we
and
love
that
him.
is why the Academy blows him off time and time again, because he's Spike Lee.
Well,
I
it's
love that about
a
Spike
very
Lee.
different Academy from year to
You're right.
year, especially
True. That's
this
why this
year.
year's gonna be so
Very
interesting.
true. very true. Very different Academy. The old adage that, Oscar voters are old people, that you can't apply that anymore because they increased their membership by a third, more gender balance, more diverse.
That's what makes this season so exciting, because the Academy is totally different and there's so many more members. But to me, it's, again, they passed over Glenn Close 6 times. Why is there? Why would everyone just suddenly be like, oh, for the 7th? Yeah, it's her.
But again, never look away. Opened nationwide over on February 8th, last weekend.
Oh, okay.
It had a 1 week run in LA to qualify for a foreign film at this year's Oscars, but now everyone can see it, and I implore them to do so. And you know what? It opened wide and played to sold out screenings at a time when Academy members are getting ready to vote. Who the hell knows? All right, finally, in terms of the writing awards, the USC Library's Scripter Award for Best Movie Adaptation went to Jeff.
Leave No Trace.
Yes.
Which is not nominated for the Oscars. And here's the thing. The Scripter Awards have actually called the Best Adapted Screenplay winner for every year this decade. Okay? Like that's a lot of movies. You'd have to. I think the last one where it didn't line up was Precious, where the scripter gave it to Up in the Air, and Precious won the Oscar. But other than that, the entire decade, the Scripter Award has been on point. Obviously, this year can't be on point because it's not nominated.
Right.
But it's like, wow. So the people who normally are voting for a screenplay or whatever, they didn't go with BlacKkKlansman. It seemed like a gimme for BlacKkKlansman
wasn't even nominated. The other nominees were Black Panther, Can You Ever Forgive Me, The Death of Stalin, and If Beale Street Could Talk.
You're right. BlacKkKlansman wasn't even nominated.
Yes.
You're right.
Yeah.
I mixed it up with Black Panther. I'm shocked that If Beale Street Could Talk or Can You Ever Forgive Me didn't win this award.
Well, and Leave No Trace, the only one that Leave No Trace was written by a woman and directed by a woman. So that's very, very cool. Can You Ever Forgive Me was co-written by a woman and directed by a woman. Okay, one final point to discuss here is the Oscar show itself, which we are less than 2 weeks away. What a friggin' mess, Perri. What a mess!
I don't even know where to begin, because the past couple of days I've just gone down that rabbit hole of reading 1,000,001 think pieces about what the state of the Oscar ceremony is, and so much of it is so alarming. I think one of the things that bothered me most in recent weeks was what we were just talking about before showtime, which was the winners from last year in the acting categories hadn't been reached out to come and present awards at this year's ceremony. And the report claimed that it was because the Academy was looking for bigger names to present these awards. Eventually, they backpedaled on that and they reached out to, let's say, a Gary Oldman and Allison Janney to come and do that. But it was after a good deal of a very loud outcry. So I think I am under the impression right now that because of that, that's why they're like, oh, can't do that. And even then, they're pairing them up. So only 2 categories being presented that night. They're going to have them as pairs go up. So it feels like we are starting to dilute the value of an Oscar in exchange for ratings. And if I understand why they have to do that all these companies involved, ABC, it's a business, they have to have ratings. But if we continue to dilute the value of an Oscar, then what is the point in having them at all at a point?
Well, I agree on both points. The ratings for the Oscars, like last year, were abysmal by Oscar standards. I mean, they're still pretty damn good. But 2 things are going to help the Oscars this year. One is Black Panther. Actually, 3 things. Black Panther, A Star is Born, and Bohemian Rhapsody. When people watch the movies that are nominated, they're going to watch the Oscars to see if their favorite movies are going to win anything. But regardless, the old complaint that's been going on since we were all little kids is, man, the Oscars are boring. Who cares about some of these other Oscars? Not to take anything away from anybody, but that is generally what most viewers and consumers and watchers feel like. Oh my God, who cares about your documentary short? Who cares? It's so boring. So they are desperate to shake it up, and they're shaking it up. What do you think, Jeff?
Feel bad. I just sighed into the microphone really loudly.
I think that there's a compromise to be had here. The people who want all 24, they're wrong. I mean, there shouldn't be all 24. That's the truth. There should be 21. You have to cut the shorts categories. I'm not talking about cutting sound. I'm not talking about relegating cinematography to a commercial. That's wrong. The shorts, there's no best actor in a short film. There's no best costume design for a short film. We don't care about the short films, and people have not even seen them. That's fine. They can still give out the Oscars, but give them at the SciTech or the other Oscar ceremony. This is a TV show, okay? It is for the rest of us. It's not for the 1,000 people in the ballroom. So you have to, the Oscars, they have to do something. They had to do something.
I agree. They had to do something,
But they're making
something's got to give.
They're making all the wrong choices.
That's fair.
That aren't fair. That aren't fair to the people that are up for awards, and they again are diluting values of certain Oscars. So, with the shorts thing, I actually do side with you in that. If any Oscar is taken out of the actual ceremony, I do think it should be the 3 shorts categories, because then you could simply state, feature films are part of the telecast and short films are part of however they want to honor them. The second you start rotating technical categories, because yes, I know in the long run and how it affects the industry, a Best Picture win can change the game more so than, let's say, a VFX win. But an Oscar is an Oscar, and by doing that, you're basically saying, the big name actor, you are more important than this VFX artist.
Which
and
they are, though. They are.
They are in the eyes of ratings. I don't think they are in the cumulative idea of making a good movie. That's
absurd.
That is the whole point in sitting through the credits, is that every single person, whether they are famous face or not, they are key to making that production happen.
It's why the people who work on VFX are not on the poster, or only the supervisors are.
So then they get
actors are above the title.
Get this one night to actually be celebrated and have their name read aloud on air, and you're taking that away from them.
All right, I'm just going to jump in here and say this. I agree with both of you. I definitely agree that no one of these 24 categories should be favored over the other just because one category is sexier and sells tickets and the other one is below the line and it's not on the poster. But I do think that something needs to be done to change the way the show is done. And taking a cue from the Critics' Choice Awards, which does have the best ratio, the best percentage rate of predicting the nominees and the winners at the Oscars. Perri, we're both at the Critics' Choice Awards, and there was a point, first of all, the show is 3 hours long because it covers TV and film, which the Oscars don't. And they also break out some of the categories into comedy and sci-fi action and all that stuff. What they did there to keep it to just 3 hours was they did a quick thing. And best score went to Justin Hurwitz, and best editing went to this movie. And they did it very, very quick. And I don't think they should do that at the Oscars. I don't know what the answer is. So here's what I'm going to do. We don't know what the answer is either. Maybe you do. Maybe you have a great idea. So here's what you're going to do. Everyone watching, everyone listening. First of all, hit us up on Twitter at Collider Video, hashtag ColliderFYC, tag Perri at P. Nemiroff, tag Jeff at The In Sneider, and tag me at Movie Mantz. What do you think should be done to fix the Oscar telecast? How to make the show shorter, more exciting, and not boring? What are your ideas? Now, maybe, look, we're open to anything. And if you don't hit us on Twitter, comment below. What do you think should be done? What would you realistically like to see done to fix the Oscars? How do you fix the Oscars? How do you get more people to watch, and how do you keep it shorter and more fun and exciting? Comment below and keep it nice and respectful.
The rotating thing is the way to go with it too, because I don't want to see the sound people getting screwed every year, okay? But for starters, let's say we're moving sound and cinematography off, and then next year it's makeup, costume, and production. That's if you have to do that drastic a move. You start with a permanent cut cut of all the shorts. That's what
Perri.
you do.
I have another idea, and admittedly, this isn't the best idea. It's like the quickest fix that I could come up with right now. So we're busy sitting here talking about how the wide public watching the broadcast, they don't want to see all of this. But if you're part of the Academy and if you voted on every single one of these awards, I would presume that you care. So add an extra hour to the ceremony, stack the awards that maybe are less buzzy at the beginning of the show, and encourage viewers to chime in once you get to the bigger stuff. Maybe if you kind of have almost even a little bit of an intermission feel, and everybody knew if I tuned in at this specific time, that's when we're getting the big stuff, all of a sudden you would have the tail end of it be very heavy and hopefully get a lot of viewers, and then still get those other individuals the spotlight and the respect they deserve, but maybe with a lower viewership.
That's interesting, Perri. Like almost like a halftime show, where the camera then cuts to the Jimmy Kimmel live stage, and there's some halftime show, and during that halftime show in the room, they're giving out all the awards that the home audience doesn't really care about.
So what you're saying, So what you're saying is do those awards for the ceremony, just not on camera?
Yes. Or you could do them before the broadcast starts.
Not entirely what I was saying.
But not on camera on TV. You'd still do it online and for YouTube. And,
I see what you're saying, and I think there's a point to that too. But what I was originally pitching was making it a 4-hour, not a 3-hour broadcast.
That's not going to happen.
Starting out with things like, let's say, the shorts, some of the technical categories that people are less interested in, then having a halftime show of sorts where, I don't know, maybe you invite all the song nominees to come in and perform and do a big thing, and then all of a sudden the second half you roll into the hot stuff and you've got this huge finish.
Right.
Or something going along what you're saying. You do this. You have the actual Oscars start at 4 o'clock instead of 5, or 4:30 instead of 5. And for the first hour, for the people inside the Dolby Theater, they're watching the Academy Awards. And for the first hour, the awards that are given out are the technical categories, are documentary short and animated short and live action short. Okay, and then the host, or lack thereof this year, the show actually starts at 5:30, and you get into supporting actress, or supporting actor, whatever you start when you do the other categories, and then you do like a montage of what won those other technical categories. Now, for everybody who wants to watch that part, that first hour of the show, they can do it online.
Yeah, they can stream it live.
They can do it live online. So if you really care about that, you can go online. You're watching the Academy Awards. Everyone inside the Dolby is seeing equal time given to each of the categories. But the people watching at home, just on their TV, they're watching a shorter version of the show with a quick, not a quick, but a respectful montage of the awards that were given out that hour before, and then you move on.
Something has to be done. Something can be done.
Yep.
But this Academy leadership is embarrassing. They have just sat on their hands and not done anything, or what they have done has been reactionary. I think that they all need to go. I don't know who's in charge at the Academy, but everyone, like the Academy, the god of the Academy, needs to fire everyone in that building.
Go ahead.
Can I read one quote that I read somewhere that really upset me? So this is from ABC Entertainment's new president, Carrie Burke, and the way it was proposed in the article, and I believe I got this from Vanity Fair, was that she found a silver lining to the chatter about the telecast. And the beginning of the quote is, "I have found the lack of clarity has kept the Oscars in the conversation." That is not something to celebrate.
Right.
How dare she say that? Like, turning it into a good thing. That, to me, is just like an itty-bitty quote that shows all of the bad that's been happening around her.
Well, what I think should definitely happen at the Academy Awards is the show should, they're not going to have a host, and just to make fun or to add some levity to all of the behind-the-scenes drama that has happened with the hosting and all the other decisions that have been made during the season with regards to the Oscar telecast, Billy Crystal should walk out to open the show, maybe not host the whole thing, but Billy Crystal should come out to open the show and just be like, "What the hell is the matter with you people?" I think that would be hilarious.
I'm with you, man. That's actually very clever.
I mean, he comes out, he's like, "What is, you can't find a host? Just leave me alone." like stop calling. You know what I mean? Like this, it would be very funny. Anyway, so listen, lots to talk about on this show. We still have a whole lot more to talk about. And here's the thing. We only have one more show, regular show, before the big day to do it. We are going to do our final actual predictions. We're going to hopefully have some surprises to roll into that show. But this next to the last show that's coming up a week from today, it's really weird.
It's not a week from today. It's a week from tomorrow. We are off next week for the holiday.
Right,
so it will be Tuesday the 19th.
It's President's Day. Yeah, that's right. We'll be back Tuesday, not Monday. Okay, having said that, I lost my train of thought, but that's okay.
That's what the next episode is for.
That's what the next episode is for. I'll pick it up from there. And again, I just want to say, I know I say this all the time, I open it up all the time, but I love doing the show with both of you. You're both the best. I love great discussions. I love you as colleagues. I love you as friends. And man, I can't wait till next week's episode on Tuesday.
Final
right
predictions.
Here on Collider Video, our final Oscar predictions. And then we are back on February 24th with the big show of them all, with a lot of activity here on Collider Video, the day of the Oscars. So you know what? Screw watching the Oscars. Make sure you watch Collider Video on February 24th, because this is where all the fun is going to happen. But until next week's Collider, for your consideration, on behalf of Paranormal Activity and the uncanny, invincible Jeff Sneider, FY, see you later.